The DJ Roundtable Show is live. It's the DJ Roundtable Show. Tell another DJ about the show. Please subscribe.
It is Tuesday night. It is 8 o'clock. You know where your DJ's at. I know where I'm at. I'm here with you. Yes, it is another DJ Roundtable, another week. We got some DJs back. We got some DJs not here. And maybe one more new DJ coming in. We'll see if he can get in or not. The door's open. Just got to wait for him to click on the links to get in here. As always, I'm surrounded by my friends from all around the country, north, east, south, but no one here from the west right now. I have Chris up in New York. I have Brentley north of me in Wisconsin. I have Jeff in North Carolina. I have Dwayne, the Hitman. He's over there, my brother to the east in Ohio. And I have Sean somewhere in rural Georgia driving around in the blurriness. He's running some errands at the same time. As you know, we're all working DJs and we work hard every single week and we do stuff all the time. And we appreciate you taking time out and watching the show. We are here live on Tuesday nights on Twitch. We do it 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and that is how we start off. And then, of course, if you're out in California, it's 6 o'clock your time. Somewhere else around the world, unfortunately, you got to do the math. I'm not going to go through every time zone here. But also, we are on YouTube. And we broadcast a lot. We don't broadcast live, but we broadcast the repeat of the show on Mondays at noon. And one of the things with YouTube, they have this thing called the algorithm. So do me a favor, help me slay that beast, help me slay the algorithm. Make sure you click the thumbs up, make sure you click the subscribe button, and make sure you click the bell icon because that helps out tremendously with the show. Plus also tells you when we have a new show uploaded. The other thing also, if you notice on Fridays is a second upload, that is a deep dive of the show for that week. So if you wanted to catch like a recap or you didn't get a chance to watch a show and you're like, I don't know if I like the subject, listen to the deep dive. A lot of great information there, a lot of great nuggets. They walk through and they talk about what we talk about on the show. And I hope that you get to enjoy and have fun with the show. This is designed to help, again, learn some stuff, and we all become better DJs. Excuse me, I'm coughing a little bit again. As always, the allergies are still around, and that's the fun part. I wanted to talk about space. If it's not space like outer space. I'm not talking about spaceships and aliens or whatever out there. I am talking about space. And what I mean by space, excuse me, what I mean by space and about anything is about space that you need for a setup. The space that you need to put out your equipment, your gear, how you set things up. And Marty here, he's new to the show. When he gets there, you go. Another person driving. Marty is joining us. He's the first time on the show, joining us from the beautiful country of Canada. So he's just over, just north of basically of Chris, and a little to the west. He's in northern Ontario, and he is a longtime DJ, and he's got some great insights. Always like reading his little mind thoughts of the day, basically, and that creates a lot of thoughts. Again, today, I want to, talk about space and about how we fit and how can we fit. This past weekend, and the reason why I'm talking about this is because of what happened to me this past weekend. And we set up in a venue. It is think of a decent-sized room, kind of L-shaped kind of area. Has a fireplace if you're looking at the room, to your right's a fireplace. To the left is a wall. There's some windows. There's a door going on to a deck that's not connected to anything. It's just a deck. There's no stairs down or that. Then behind you, where you're on the dance floor, is a doorway to go onto another deck. That deck is connected one half of the building, and there's a ramp going down to load, unload into. And that is where the bar is at on the deck outside for this wedding. The catering, because there's no room, we had 100 people. So not a ton of people, 100 people, a good amount of people. The catering was on the dance floor in front of me on two 6-foot tables. So it was a barbecue company, and they were great. They were awesome, but they couldn't put the two tables together because people were walking through back and forth over my cables, which were heavily taped down, of course. A lot of gaffer's tape, and I went through a lot of it because it wasn't adhering correctly to the floor for whatever reason they want to adhere. So we had to do a few tricks to get it to adhere right, and it worked after a few seconds. We worked very hard at that, making sure it was very neat, clean, and people weren't going to trip or anything. But one of the pictures I had, which if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it appear, the picture, is I had hot boxes right next to my speakers. I had the associates from the barbecue company basically reaching around one of my speakers, one of my Mauis, to grab stuff out of the hot box, and they were basically right on top of it on both sides. They were literally in my footprint. And when you go to a venue to look at stuff, or you go to a venue to figure things out, and again, I didn't have my normal huge booth. I was actually using my Pro X booth to cut down space because my normal booth is 9 feet, and that would be no way people can get in and out of that back door. And I'm like, okay, we're confined space. We need to take a little space up. So I used my Pro X booth with a black scrim on it, and I didn't want to take a lot of space up. When you run into that, when you run into tight quarters for yourself and your gear, what are your priorities? How do you go through that and try to make sure that you're taking space up that's necessary, but not necessary? And what I mean by not necessary space is, can you avoid putting up a light tree? Can you avoid doing things? Now, I do bounce back lights. So I had lights on the walls. So I did uplighting at the fireplace and on the one wall of the room. The wall was amber. The fireplace was white. Stone fireplace, grayish stone fireplace. The building is a light cream color and brown, so typical neutral colors. But I did gold because that's one of the colors I had. The colors were white, gold, and green for the wedding. I didn't want to do green because green can be very harsh, and they had green, they had green accents. I didn't want to take that away, so I did gold and white lighting. Those lights then, when the dance floor opened, became the dance floor. So we got, light bounce off the wall into the room for lighting. So that way I didn't have to worry about putting up a T-bar and lights because I've gotten away from a lot of that, or a gig bar or anything like that. So I'm asking you guys, and again, if you saw my post on my social media, if not, don't worry about it. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see an image of what I ran into. And I wanted you guys to hear from you guys. How do you handle tight quarters? How do you handle an item that you don't have a lot of space? So when you're setting up, you're putting your equipment up, how do you handle an area that doesn't have a lot of room for you and your gear? So the first person I'm going to go to is actually our newest person here tonight.
Oh, thanks.
Marty, I'm going to throw you in the deep end. I'm sorry, man. How do you handle
Well,
tight quarters?
how do I handle tight quarters? Well, it boils down to make the guests happy. So regardless of how I can congeal it and make it as small as possible, I do that. I've worked at venues where they've actually put me in the clothes closet. So you can't see You can't see the guests on the other side of the wall, like nothing, right? I've done events where it's all monitored, where you can't even see the people. It's you have a camera watching the people as you're DJing behind a curtain, right? So you just grin and bear it and try to do the best you can with what you have, right?
So when you know you're going to a situation like that, how do you prepare for that? Is there certain gear you go to? Is there certain things that you do that you know to limit your space so you're not worrying about having, something being knocked over or knocked into?
I try to compact as much as possible, right? And if I can't use it, I can't use it, right? You know,
Out
try
there.
to compact it so it's nice and small, right? Because they want you in a 4x4 space, right? You just don't. You're going to know this prior to with your consultations, so you're going to know what you can bring and what you can't bring, right? So that's the deal with your consultation prior to. You know, usually there's a wedding planner, so you'll have a floor plan already asked for, right? If you know the venue, you should know, well, this is not going to work, and I'm not going to have enough space to do what I need to do, right? And if you're not, if you don't know the venue, visit the venue. It gives you a chance to hand them business cards, know that you're coming, right? You know, it's a way to visit without doing. It's like a marketing visit without actually physically going. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You can check things out as a marketing visit, right? I'm doing this such and such a wedding, and I want to see the venue because I haven't been here, and that sort of thing, right? Get out into the atmosphere, get in the wedding coordinators, because if you get a few wedding coordinators, they will refer you all the time, right? It's just like at Christmas time, I send everybody chocolates, right? So every wedding coordinator, every photographer, every person that I know of gets a box of chocolates because it's January and you're on top of mind when they start getting phone calls. Oh, do you know a DJ? Yeah, the one that just sent me chocolate, right? So those
Not a
sort of
bad
things.
thing.
Yes.
Much rather be known as the nice DJ who gives chocolate out than the mean DJ who wants to do what they want to do.
Yep.
So one other thing also, I know that Canada and the United States is very, very similar in a lot of aspects of things. Again, you guys are basically our brothers to the north. The question for you, because again, Canada, there's a few differences here and there, but in Canada, how long do your weddings last? Are they short? Are they long? Or are they 4 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours?
My wedding this Saturday is 15 hours. So by the time you get to the venue, there's a separate setup for they're doing their wedding reception at a different venue than their actual venue. So you have to drive an hour out of your way to go to their wedding service before you actually at another venue before you go to their venue that they're booked out for the reception. Right. So it makes for a long, long day. Right.
Oh, yes, it does.
We're now you I know you guys are used to like 6 hour weddings, or I've seen it where they're dancing during cocktail hour and dinner music, right? In between sets, right? I've seen you guys do that before as well, right?
I think it's more. I think that's more East Coast. Here in the Midwest, usually a reception hall is generally 6 hours rental. Usually you're there 2 to 3 hours prior to, and you try to get out 45, 30 minutes to 40 minutes afterwards. Now, if you start adding a ceremony in there, you're adding more time. If you add in a remote ceremony, more time. If you're adding in, cocktail hour in a separate area, a second setup or a third setup, you're adding more time. And that's the thing is how elaborate people want to be. Sometimes people want even longer. They want to go to 7 and 11 o'clock, they add it at midnight or they add at 1 o'clock. So it all boils down to, but in the Midwest is a little bit different than I would say the rest of the country. So a 15-hour day for a wedding, have done that plenty of times, especially you're doing a remote part and you're doing, the ceremony over here and a reception over there. Done that plenty of times. Actually, we just did that a couple weeks ago. The ceremony was 20 minutes away from the reception hall, and it always makes you like, hey, you know what? You want to do this? This is gonna be a long day for you, plus also a long day for us as DJs. Again, Marty, thank you so much. Because again, I got more questions for you in a little bit. I know you're driving. I don't want anything happening to you. But if you happen to go to Tim Hortons, make sure you grab some Timbits for us. Uh,
There you go. So what I want to do is probably after grad week, I'm going to do a marketing spiel for everybody so that you guys have all these different ideas on marketing and how to market your business to get more business. It's just like there's one I did 10 years ago and I still use it today. I got a mistake on my business card, a spelling mistake, and I did it deliberately. So if anybody finds this spelling mistake, they get 10% off. You know how many people are asking for business cards because they know that I will give them 10% off if they find the spelling mistake on my business card?
that's an interesting
So
take. That's an interesting way to market.
yes. So I'm going to do that probably in 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll get together and figure this all out.
Very cool.
I got a crap load of grads next week because it's grade 8 grad time.
Well, good.
So I'm going a week straight of grads. So afternoon and night. So I'm doing about 18 grads in a week myself.
Good.
Right. So they just book time. So I've had grads do it in the afternoon and do a grad dance for the kids in the afternoon.
Good. Hopefully, none of them shrink you up at space and don't give you caterers right on top of you. I'm going to go over to Jeff in North Carolina. There, Jeff, how do you handle tight quarters and how do you prepare for it?
Well, you just gotta, make sure, um, just like Marty said, when your consultations, make sure know what you're getting into. So, most situations are going to be, relatively tight. I mean, there's very few situations for weddings where you're going to have a huge open space for the DJ. Some event centers, some venues, DJ setup is an afterthought. And you know, for DJs like us, it's not fun to walk into a situation like that, but you've also got to look at it from the perspective of the couple and of the people at the event. So, they just want to hear music. They don't care about your problems. They just want to hear some music and they want to dance and have fun. With that said, you still have to be able to perform, because you are a performer. And you have to be able to do what you do. And if you need the space to do that, you need to negotiate that or work that out prior to. If you can't, then you just got to get in there and do the best you can. For me, my standard setup is the Pro X Mesa Media Mark II DJ table with the TV on front. And, it's not huge, but it's not small either by any standards. So I can fit that into most spaces, but I do have a backup plan. I can dump the monitor if I'm going to be a very, very tight situation and put it on a fold-up table. So, I've got one and I can always bring it. I don't always bring it unless I'm getting into a situation where, I don't know what the event or the venue is going to have. So you got to be ready for that. And I've got, a white and a black cloth I can throw over that. And basically it's the size of my controller. So that is the minimum amount of space to set up, other than the two speakers, which can go, wherever. But so I don't know. You just gotta play it by ear. You got to be ready for everything. And as DJs, we have run into these situations, time and time again, and you just get through it. So
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to always try and pivot and do what's best for our couples or our customer. Because again, it's not just weddings; it's a corporate gig. It's again, Marty's doing some graduation parties this coming week. It could be any event. It could be a birthday party, and then you get thrown into the proverbial closet that you're basically, you got a small space. I've run into that before that I was, and again, I do wireless speaker systems and do a lot of wireless stuff. So I wasn't connected to my speakers. I was on one side, and to my left, about 25, 30 feet away, was a sweetheart table up on a stage, and that's where my speakers were at next to them and some lighting. So it could fill the room because that right there was the long way of the room. The way I was facing was the narrow way, the short way. And it would have been just blasted people out in front of me versus I wanted to fill the room with sound. So it's one of the things that you have to be flexible and think things through. And I was looking when I did my wedding on Saturday, should I do wireless speakers? And there was no place to put them. It was literally if I would have moved them this way or that way, it wouldn't have mattered. There was no extra place to put them, especially with where the caterers were at. It was just, I would have to put the speakers basically on the other side of the room facing us versus on our side of the room facing the people. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I don't want to do.
My last gig, I was set up in a press box in a football stadium. And luckily, I had been there a few weeks prior, and I knew in that setup that it was a terrible setup. I couldn't hear the speakers from to make the announcements. So in this one, I ran extra cable and I set up just outside of it so I could hear the speakers a little bit better. So with knowledge comes power, and with experience comes better setup. So
That's right. Experience is everything. And Matt just came in, who has a lot of experience. Matt, I know you're joining us a little bit later, but I'm gonna get to you in a minute or two, so you get some time to think about the question. I'm gonna actually go to Brentley next. Brentley, how do you handle tight quarters, and what do you do to prepare for it? When you have that proverbial, few feet in front of you, that's dance floor, but that dance floor is covered right now with a caterer, with a cake, or with whatever.
So, one, I'm super clear about what it's on my website, in my contracting, and it's one of the very first topics I cover in my contracting and in my proposal when you confirm the booking information with me, that based on what setup you have, I need a minimum amount of space. And I'm super clear about it. I think it's 15 feet across the face by 6 feet deep. And I even have a note, if I'm in a corner, it needs to be 8 feet deep then. So, and a lot of couples, I will talk to them where they're getting married at, what they need from me. And they'll be like, and there's been couples that are like, we want you, but you get room for one speaker, one sub, and your deck. Cool. This is the price I'm charging you. And I'll agree to that type of gig going in. And again, like you've seen, the trash can joke, it's all because even after I advanced everything with the venue, I found it was all BS and couldn't do exactly what I needed to do. So I am super clear with couples that in order to create what they want, this is what I'll need. I will check, venues out before I confirm with the couple. If I've never been there, I will talk to DJ friends. I will look at the venue online where DJs have set up. And for example, there's a venue here in town, just over the river, the La Crescent Area Event Center, where it's a gorgeous venue. Its only issue is you have to do catering off of the dance floor because it's the only non-carpeted area. And I make it super clear to them when I'm, and they've been super nice about it. But there needs to be 6 feet of space between me and that table. So if anybody does something stupid, my gear isn't subject to getting messed up. And all of the caterers that go through there are super cool about that. And more often than not, when I ask them that, they will make what should be a two-sided buffet line one-sided, so they're protecting their backs are in my face while they're serving dinner, so no one can be on that side of the line except them. So that gives me a little bit more faith and confidence in what's going to happen. But I'm super clear to couples with what you want from me, what the venue needs are, and what I need to be able to do that. Have like on Saturday, I didn't even think about it. The couple that was for wanted me to face in a certain way in the venue, which I've done before. But then I'm like, oh crap, you got extra equipment out of me. So rather than have my everything go straight across the face, because I'm using downers and wireless stuff, I was able to send my 2 light bars to the other side of the room to shoot them down towards the dance floor, which worked out just fine. I actually kind of dug it. But that was the one thing, and I didn't think about it because I've been at this venue before and normally set up differently. So no big deal. That was easy to, get around. But for the most part, I've checked the venue and make sure they have what I need and vice versa, especially with new venues. Here, the one I'm going to on Saturday hasn't gotten back to me in 2 weeks, and I've sent 2 emails and left 1 voicemail.
Yeah, that's frustrating when someone you try and contact at the facility to get more information, especially it's been a few weeks and you're going to be there, you want to get the information. I know I contact facilities, and I was just talking to a young lady for the wedding coming up in 2 weeks, and very basic information because she doesn't handle a lot of that stuff. She's like, we just basically rent the room. And some venues, they have all this information they want to give you. So it's, when you're trying to find out where to load in, where to load out at, what do we do for this, what do we do for that, they may have the information. They may say, oh, you got to see who's there on site. So it's always questions you have to ask. And again, one of those questions is, where am I on a dance floor? And a lot of times, brides and grooms don't understand sound for the most part. They don't understand room that you need. They don't understand what you need. And that's one of the things you have to be vocal with. And I know Dwayne, he has his background being a music teacher and understanding the sound. He does music for a band for his church. And of course, he's a DJ. So he understands that sound thing pretty down pat for many, many years. So for you, sir, with your experience, your knowledge and know-how, how do you handle a small space, and what do you do? How do you prepare for that? How do you prepare for that small space? What do we do differently than the area you have a lot of room?
It depends on what the room is as far as small space, because I can go as small as, because I have one of those DJ to go controllers. I can go as small as that. I DJ on my phone when my controllers and computer went down. So it's as small as you want. But the main thing is to talk to the couple and see what the situation is, and then inform them that this is what I need to do my job. And so therefore there's no surprises when I do or adapt to their situation. So that's basically it. And then too, I have pictures of all my setups. So because a few times people ask me about room, and pretty much my DJ booth, because I pretty much use the Rockville DJ booth. So that doesn't take much room. So I can pretty much keep everything there. And then with my column arrays, they don't take up much room either. So I can finagle those around. But it depends. If the room is not, if the room is small and I need to be compact, if I can get away with running one either column array or one, regular speaker top that can push the sound out, I'll do that. So I'll try to find ways to adapt to it. But pretty much, I tell them up front what I'm going to do, or what I'm going to bring, and make sure we're all on the same page, and go and do a site visit if I can.
And that's one of the things is like your booth. I know, Jeff, you had the Pro X, like I have the media. And I didn't put a TV in front of mine this past weekend. This coming weekend, I will have a TV in front because of their package is different. But last weekend, and thank God I didn't do that either, because people were right in front of there. That TV would have got smacked. It would have got whacked. And that's something I don't want. And I know the Rockville booth is probably just as wide or maybe a little bit skinnier than that. So again, it's not a huge footprint. I know Brentley, he has his Toad, but you have a couple other booths and facades you can deal with.
Yeah.
I know Sean
I
has a
try to
couple
keep my
different.
setup about 4 feet across. I don't like having a 6 foot table, but then again, I'm 5'7", and I'm not exactly the biggest guy in the world. I prefer everything to be a
Oh,
little
so
closer to me.
short. I didn't think you were that short.
Yep.
Cute.
Yeah,
You're only 5'7"?
Yeah.
he's only
Oh.
he's Brentley. You're 5'7". I thought you were.
Oh no, here another person who their social media is really good at making their short self look tall is Stephanie Rivkin, DJ Stardust. She's shorter than I am, like by like 6, 7 inches. I was like, wait a minute. The first time I met her, you are really short. No, I'm 5'7". I wear docks or things that have like an inch and a half sole, so it just makes me look taller. That and having slightly broader shoulders and build, you can kind of get away with looking taller than you are. I've don't worry, I've practiced this my entire life to get better at looking tall.
Uh, um, we still love you anyways, Brentley. Doesn't matter how short or how tall you are. Uh, and speaking of tall, Chris, you're like an inch taller. You're what, 6'2", right?
6'1",
I think no, I thought you were a little bit taller than me because I'm 6'1".
6'1".
You're 73 inches, right? 72 is 6 feet. I'm 72 and like 72 and like 3/4. So I'm considered 6'1". But I thought you were a tad taller than me. But I also
Probably just a smidge. The hair, it's like
well, I keep my hair short. It's been a little
I
bit
try
since I
to.
saw Chris.
Doesn't always
Um,
happen, but anyways.
it's
So
been a little bit since I saw Chris. He he was here 2 years ago.
2002,
Yeah.
almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Marquee.
Wow, it's been a bit. He's got to come back here, guy. I got to take him to some more dinners. But uh, and again, anyone who's coming to Chicago for Marquee, that's coming up soon here in Chicagoland. Anyone coming here in Marquee, if you got any questions or that, hit me up on social media. Always glad to chat and talk. But Chris, how do you handle small areas? And again, you're talking tight quarters. We're talking, if possible, a card table size area, maybe. That right there would have been perfect, a card table for me. But the stuff's just hanging off the sides.
Table's
How do
about
you
three and a
handle an
half,
area
what,
like that?
4 feet? 3.5 feet, 3.5 to 4 feet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the smallest table they really make that's long is 4 foot. So it's a little small for my personal taste, but I mean, I could try to make it do, but means they're going to suffer where I place the speakers, where audio is going to bounce, if that's really what the venue has left. But I would always do a site visit. I always confer with my client, unless I've been to the venue. I mean, I don't have to deal with that, but I personally prefer for my personal working space, not including where my speakers would go, on the outside of my working space is around 5'5", literally half of my facade. And I have the JMAS event facade. So that's two panels and the panels coming out, and I need at least 5 feet behind me just so I could walk behind and stuff, because otherwise it's unsafe. I can't be walking through a tight quarters, tripping on stuff where I might have cables that are tied down, my own bags that I have to leave in front of me in case I need something else. Where are you going to store your backup gear? If something happens, where are you going to store that quick stuff that you need out of your bag right in front of you? So you need some space, and you got to do that site visit, and you got to talk to the venue beforehand, and hopefully they're very responsive. So where the normal DJ set up, you can ask them, oh, we got plenty of space, and I don't have to deal with that so much. I mean, it's very rare that I see where we're in a corner or um up in a an elevated position and it's literally just a hallway. I've worked in that once, and that's fine. I could work with that. I could go as short as my my Prime 4, the controller and the case. That's it. I can sit with that right there. But where am I going to put the speakers? That's a whole nother picture.
And that's the
Personal
hard
working
part.
space.
So
Yeah.
here's another scenario here, Chris and everyone, so
Yeah.
you guys
What
can
do you
get an
got?
idea. Um, the room we're in, they had central air conditioning. There's
Yeah.
downstairs is two floors. Downstairs is a large room of some bathrooms. There's bathrooms upstairs too. Gentlemen and young ladies restroom upstairs. A water fountain. Looks like we lost Matt. Uh,
Mm.
we also there downstairs a couple of bathrooms and a little kitchen and like a larger room to sit, kind of relax a little bit. And that's what you usually have like hors d'oeuvres at for cocktail.
Yeah.
But I guess the air conditioning can't keep up, so they have right next to the DJ a through the wall air conditioner, kind of like what you got, Chris, in your place. And we had that going as well. It wasn't big because it was only a 110 outlet, so up to 12,000 BTUs. But we had that going too because it was getting a little warm in there, and I'm like, it's not that hot out here on last Saturday. It was probably it was upper 70s with the sun out, and then at nighttime it came down in temperature. But I'm like, if this was like a 90-degree day or upper 80s,
Right.
yeah, it would
Very
be
uncomfortable.
murder.
But you also got to admit, humidity plays a big role in the efficiency of air conditioning.
Yes.
So,
Well, I had that going. I'm like, okay, we gotta get this going right away, so that way we could have humidity taken out, so it's not muggy in there. The last thing I want is a muggy room. People feel
right.
uncomfortable, and the more humidity you take out, even though temperature may not be as cool, it's still nice. It's still nice to have. But yeah, it was a unique place, and this was a municipal. It's not a park, but it is a park because it's like almost like a nature center almost. So it's a very unique place, very cool. They have a little ponds. They have a little lake. Saw people out there
So,
with little boats, little kayaks when we got there. So it was a cool little place to.
so your spacing, what was it? Limited and how? Like,
Oh, it was very limited. It probably from one side to the other side was probably maybe 10 feet total width wise.
mhm.
And one side of that's wall to wall, but one side had cabinets along there, and that's where like the desserts were at. There was a countertop, and the desserts were next on it. So I was very limited. Again, I'll share some pictures in a little bit. I don't because Chris, you don't have all the connections like I have, so I'll share some pictures afterwards. So but the people out there on YouTube will see. If you guys, follow me on social media, you guys will see that if you're friends with me. And I see Kevin, Adrian, and of course DJ Crossfire. I appreciate you guys out there. Crossfire says he has no graduation gigs for him. Kevin said he could DJ if he need to be in a trash can. That I know that, and a jar of mayonnaise will make you happy. And the thing is that Kevin now takes mayonnaise as payments and also Miracle Whip. So if you want to pay him in mayonnaise and Miracle Whip, you just go to Costco or Sam's Club, buy a case of that, and bring it to him. He'll take that as payment because he puts it on everything. Um, Adrian, of course he's here, and so I'm trying to see if anyone else came in when we're talking. Nope, nope, no one else is in there. But thank you guys for coming in and hanging out on a lovely Tuesday night. So I'm going to go down to because I see Sean driving. I want like to Sean gets to a part that he can talk because again he's out. You can talk. Okay, you can unmute yourself. Um, yeah, you can come back in a minute, Matt. But Sean, you've been listening. And I know a couple pictures I've seen you with tight quarters. How do you handle tight quarters, and what do you do to prepare for those tight quarters?
Yes, I mean, we do have in our contract spelled out what size based off of what they're booking we require for our setup. Any other setups we request that we approve that setup space. But a lot of times anymore, I'm not putting speakers with my setup. So often we're getting stuck in the corner, or like this coming weekend, I'm several rows of tables from the dance floor. So I will go and I will set my speakers up where they need to be centered with the room and with the dance floor. And I'll set the DJ booth up 50 feet away if I have to and run cabling to it. So that lets me scale down my footprint quite drastically of what I need to take up in my immediate vicinity. My normal booth is the Grundor facade. So that's 60 inches, 5 foot. If I'm scaling down a little smaller, I have a 48-inch facade, so I can shave a foot off there. Cocktail space, I mean, we can run battery power with a little DMX Go or a little DJ Go on it and not need any power at all and set up on a little tray on a laptop or on a speaker stand. So, I mean, we can scale down quite a bit, but we ask that for our approval before we agree to do that for them so we can see what we're getting into and what we need to bring for that space.
And when you run into situations, when you're talking to them and you're saying, hey, I need to do this and you do that, when you do that consultation with your client and you talk to the venue, you find you got a cramped space, do you scale back anything? Do you say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to use like this speaker system, or I'm not going to use this lighting system, or I'm not going to use this booth, but I'll use that booth. What do you do?
Yeah, so I mean, most of the time we'll try to find a way to give them what they're contracted for. A lot of our big lighting packages with like totems, all of that, they're upsells for us. We're not including those with every DJ package. So again, I'll put totems on the four corners of the dance floor. They don't need to be right next to that DJ booth. You see so many DJs who just try to smush everything into their little given space to have their like nice, pretty setup look. But instead, my goal lately, I build for the room. So yes, I have mine with my pretty setups, my TVs in it, my totems, everything. But more often than not, we're going to work with the room and put things where they're going to function best based off of where we're playing. Now, some stuff is a non-negotiable. Cold sparklers for us. We will not light our cold sparklers off within 8 feet of any object. No linens, no flowers, nothing like that. And that is a hard line for us. So I actually have a meeting tomorrow at 1:30 with a couple. They have 8 cold sparklers booked, and where they're wanting to put them, we see as a fire hazard. So we're not going to oblige by that. So we're going to have a meeting with them, their venue, and their planner to go ahead and, sorry, I'm pulling in somewhere right now, ahead and plan where the best spot is going to be to use those. But when they sent us their initial floor plan, we said no. And sometimes you have to stand your ground as the DJ and don't let those planners and venues push you into situations that you know are wrong. If you're setting up your speakers in a corner where it's going to cause you feedback, why are you doing that? Run those speakers somewhere else into the room, or say, hey, no, this is not going to work. This is where we should go to have the best sound and be able to perform the best. So I think a lot of that is just standing your ground as a DJ as well and not getting pushed around, because we are those professionals. That's why they're paying us, is for that professional knowledge.
And here's a question I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm sure you guys all have heard this many times before, and I just want to see a show of hands. Have you heard this before? But we always put the DJ there. But we always put the DJ there.
I will literally tell venues, that's great. I'm glad you always put the DJ there, but you've been doing it wrong, and all of those DJs should have told you that. It's okay. Correct them. Tell them what they're doing wrong. Explain to them, no, this is a bad setup. You're going to have comb filtering here. This is not going to work well. Speak up. Otherwise, they don't know any better. And so many DJs are not professional DJs who are out doing this every weekend. So these venues and planners see everything from hobbyists or maybe bringing some Radio Shack speakers to full-blown professional DJs. But if nobody speaks up and tells them they're doing that wrong, they're going to just keep telling that to every DJ. Well, we always put them here.
I think I know what Matt would say. I'm not that DJ. Right, Matt?
No, I would definitely say that, Matt. I will tell you this: the picture you put up of your system with your L acoustic subs, I am very jealous of that setup. Uh,
Yeah,
only thing
I
I give you,
realized I
only
know
thing
why
I
they
get, only thing I
go
give you
ahead.
pain on is I just saw that I was like, man, those L acoustics, those are just. I like powered more than amplified, and you get to run speak on
Have
cables,
you
but
heard L acoustic subs? You would change your mind.
yes, yes, I have. I have heard L Acoustics. Uh, the wedding show we did beginning of this year at the Rockford Hard Rock Cafe in Rockford, their audio system in their main hall is L Acoustics. They have 8 subs. They're running cardioid subs, so they have 6 forward, 2 reverse, and they have 2 full stacked arrays, and they have 2 half arrays that they actually shine onto the stage for monitors. Plus, they get the floor monitors in front. But I could tell you there was not bad sound anywhere in that venue. And you want to talk about, and they didn't have it roaring, but you want to talk about great sounding stuff and very clean. Very, very jealous. I know how much L Acoustics work and how much they run. I always love reading about them. I know that Sweetwater carries them, and they have a pretty price tag. Them and Meyer Sound. I'd love to get a set, but I don't want to deal with amplifiers. That's the thing. And L Acoustics, they're not self amplified. They have a separate L Acoustics amplifier, but the setup was just beautiful looking to look at. What do you do when you get into a tight space, or they basically put you in a corner? No one puts baby in a corner, but they may put Matt in the corner. What happens when they have you that tight space?
I just leave
Just leave.
and tell them good luck.
Good luck. Have a
Um,
boombox.
I mean, I like,
Gesundheit, Dwayne. I saw you sneeze.
like Brett Lee, I have it in my contract also, like that we need to be placed like front and center of the dance floor. And with like certain packages, we do need to, but like the one that we just did this weekend, there really wasn't a way for us to be placed there. And so we kind of just made it work where we were off to the side and then just set up the sound on either side of the sweetheart table and the lighting there and then the lasers in the corner, and it worked out. It was obviously more work because we're running, 100 feet of cable versus 10 or 15 feet, but sometimes you kind of just have to work with what you get. The other problem though is more of like, when most coordinators, when they see a DJ setup, they're not really, or like when they think of a DJ setup, they think of a guy with, 6 foot table, 2 speakers, and a gig bar. Like they don't expect somebody to have a 20-foot wide setup with, dual 18s and speakers and truss towers. And so it's like we've gone to venues that were like super bougie, and we get there and we're like, we're gonna have to move some of these tables. So you just kind of have to approach it in a nice way. It's never really been a big issue. I hate like personally being in like the corner behind the speakers. Like there's a couple of venues that I'm at that I just like despise because you're like so far and you can never gauge like how loud it is out there, and it's so quiet where you are and you don't feel that energy. So uh, yeah, but uh,
Is
you were
there
talking about.
is there anything you do to prepare for those tight quarters? If
I
someone says,
always
"Hey, you're going
yeah,
to have only 10 feet to deal with."
I always get a floor plan ahead of time and then kind of adjust my setup accordingly if I need to. Um, so that's kind of how I deal with it. But yeah, I mean, that's all you can really do sometimes. So just kind of roll with the punches.
Yeah, it's
Whoops.
very true. Sometimes you have to have, the just 2 speakers, and it's something very basic because that is what fits the event or fits the room, far as the
You were
actual room
talking,
itself. And
you were talking
sometimes
earlier about, sorry, you were talking earlier about moisture, and I was going to mention that it's very moist in the air where I'm at. I'm in Florida right now because I'm the fine folks at LD Systems has paid for my trip to go to InfoComm tomorrow.
Nice.
there
So
you
Congrats.
go.
gonna check
Enjoy
that
your
out,
trip, man.
and then staying going to tomorrow and the next day, and then extending the trip and going to Epic Universe, the New Orlando park down here on
Hmm.
Friday. So
Well, enjoy yourself, have some fun. Don't get eaten by an alligator. You
Very,
know,
very jet lagged right now. I was up, my flight left at 6 a.m. from LAX, and it's 9:52 here now. So
well, yeah,
Time for
because you
bed
went
for
forward
everyone out
4
there.
hours,
yeah, I
coast to
went.
coast. I
Yeah.
could tell you this: when Tracy, her previous job, she traveled a lot, and she would go coast to coast. Her office was Houston. Of course, we live in Chicagoland, but her office was Houston. So she'd fly down on Monday and fly back on Thursdays. But a lot of times they'd have projects going on in different areas, different markets. And there's been plenty of times she had fly from coast to coast. Sometimes, depending on what city it was direct flight. But sometimes you had a hop. So you'd go from this city over to this city and have a layover and then go to this city. And sometimes it was 2 or 3 flights, you know. So it's funny how some things work. And I remember talking to her plenty of times how jet lagged she was. And when she came home on Thursday evenings and she got home, yeah, I knew Friday she had to work. She worked from from home in her little office, but yeah, she was very tired. And then I would go out and do weddings then afterwards. So hey, Friday night we got a wedding. She's like, okay, well, I got to take a nap. I can take a half day. I'm gonna take a nap for a couple hours, and we'll be good to go. So she beasted it out and bossed it out as as she did. But going back to Yellow Acoustics, that was your first event with them, or is it a second event with them?
No, I've had those for a while. I've had those since like shoot, I don't know.
I thought it was the RCF Dual 18s you had.
No, I have dual 21s from RCF. I've had the L acoustics for a while, but remember my storage unit was broken into, so I didn't have my IG4T column speaker tops for a while. So
Ah,
that was my first event with those again, which I missed those. Those sound super crisp. And they're just like they don't ever seem like that loud, but like I'll send or post something on my Instagram or TikTok where like my videographer was taking a video from outside the building and it was so insanely loud and it was like yeah, I don't know. Audio fatigue's a real thing.
well, the good thing is that you had a great event, and I was talking about before about the my taping, which you said that
Oh,
my
your
taping
garbage
wasn't,
tape job? That was
but
horrible.
as
Looked horrible.
because it was multiple pieces because it was not adhering. Whatever was that edge of the floor is a rubber like a plastic material. It wasn't rubber, it was a plastic material. We were putting it down and it was almost peeling instantaneously right off. And
We have
I
a
don't
place like
have
that here.
cheap gaffer's tape. I buy the good stuff. And what we had to do is cut, basically small pieces, basically a foot long, put it down, and then you're pressing it down and then rubbing your foot back and forth a couple times to get it to adhere properly. And at the end of the night, came right off, no problem. And that's sometimes you gotta do that. Sometimes you can't have that one single piece. You always try for that, but I also have my tool, which I'll probably use in my tool this coming week. My gaffer tape tool. So. That right there, $270 spent on that. I've used it a few times and it helps out in certain events. Oh man, it's always fun with everything going on and everything, all the stuff going on. And with everything going on in small venues, when you have small spaces, to me also gives you an idea as how to be yourself different than a lot of DJs. I know Chris was saying before about DJs being all tight and really close with uh, speakers and stuff. And Sean was talking about how a lot of DJs put their speakers right next to their booth and the towers or whatnot, and they kind of look the boombox kind of feel because it's all really tight, close together versus I like spreading out, and I always try to spread out as much as I possibly can and try to have things because I want to have sound that sounds very clean and clear, and that's a big huge thing for me. When we were looking at this space and I kept on going through my mind, I'm like, this is gonna be a tough one. This is going to be something to really um, utilize a lot of things that I've learned over the years of sound and how to do things a certain way to have a great feel to things. And when you do stuff and you do stuff all the time, you get kind of complacent with things. And sometimes you're like, hey, I've done this the same way over and over. But when you get throw a curveball, and we kind of knew about it. It was a tight space because Tracy went there and had a meeting with the bride at the venue, and she was there. And we knew what was going to happen and how to do things. And you're changing things to make it easier for yourself. It's always good to have a challenge like that to keep you on your toes. And if you're out there and you're having a challenge on an event, hopefully this helps you out. Hopefully this makes you think and go, hey, you know what? Next time I run into an event like this or this venue, I know what to expect. But also, if I run to a venue similarly, hey, I could do this or do that. And it's good for you as a business owner to expand. And this way, when you take pictures and you can show people, hey, this was a small venue, there's a small dance floor, but I still had people out there dancing. It makes you feel good. And this way you give intelligent talk. One thing also, I know I saw Brentley talk about this, and I hope that you guys do this, that you have pictures of your setups, that you have pictures of what you do at different venues. We always try and take some pictures, and it may be 80% done because, again, it's hard to keep track of what's going on. It may be 100% done. It may be 50% done. But you go and explain things to customers. Hey, we're in the middle of this. This kind of gives you an idea of a footprint on this. Sometimes it's Brentley standing out front with a scrim. It looks like a cape behind him. Sometimes it's him behind the booth, Superman. Sometimes it's yourself in front of the booth. But if you get a chance to get some pictures of your setups, get some pictures of what you're doing, because not only you can see progression of things, but then you catch things. Like Matt teasing me for some tape, or you have a cable that's loose, you forgot all about it.
Garbage tape
Look at
job.
it. Go fix the cable or go fix this. We always wanted to make sure we try and do our best foot forward. But when you get a chance to, you take those pictures, share them with your customers and show them that this is what I look like. This is what you're going to see, and explain to them a little bit. They don't have to know everything. Just say, hey, this is my booth. This is my office. This is kind of what you're going to see at your wedding if you choose this package. Or I could do this, or I could do that. I could do it in black. I could do it white, do whatever. But this gives them ideas. And when I was talking the other day to people, they couldn't understand why I have so many speakers in black and white. And this is a sales thing for you. I have both black and white because of the fact that I charge a premium for white, for an all white setup. So I have Maui 5s in white. I have Maui 5s in black. I can put my booth in black. I put my booth in white. When I do that stuff, it is very, very much reasons I do that. And if I can give a customer an option for something, and again, I charge a little bit more money for it, it is an optional thing, and give them to tailor to their tastes, and they have multiple ideas or they have multiple views, or hey, I want this, or I'm going for this kind of theme. Oh, I can support you with this or that. It separates you from other DJs in the market. And that's what you want. You want that separation from other DJs. Marty and I were talking the other day, when I asked him to come on the show, he was talking about DJs in his area that, they're not doing anything, and they have open time, but they're not going after events. And he's like, why don't these guys go up their fence? And sometimes it's because they don't know, or they just don't want to. But as yourself as a DJ, you have to ask yourself one thing. Are you a business owner, or are you someone doing, part-time? Are you someone who's doing it as a hobby? And that's the thing you have to look at. Are you doing it as a hobby? Hey, great, no problem. But you need to treat it as such. If you're someone who's got a full-time job and you do it part-time, not a problem. Treat it as such. If you are going to treat it as a business, treat it as a business. But just remember, always put your best foot forward. Always do your best. And again, when something comes up, like have no space for everything, and it's time to go to plan B or plan C or plan D. It's always time to figure things out. man, we always go through time so quickly on the show. I want to thank you all. Again, I want to thank Marty for coming in from beautiful Canada up north. And I love the fact that he came on here tonight. And again, we'll see him again in some more episodes coming up. Love hearing DJs from all other countries because, again, Canada have a lot of similarities to us, a couple slight differences in us. But it's always interesting. Even different parts of the country have different things. You know, Jeff does stuff differently than I do here in Chicago, and that Matt does things differently out in California than Chris does. And then Dwayne does some unique stuff out there, and Sean, he does some odd things down in Kentucky he didn't do up in Wisconsin. But that's because the fact that it's different markets, and that makes us different. That makes us great DJs, and we understand our market and understand what you do. Don't give up. Always fight forward. Always, do your best. And with that said, I'm actually going to have Chris take us out tonight. Chris, my brother.
Thank you for watching, checking in here with the DJ Roundtable. Don't forget to subscribe. We definitely need you to like us. All right, give that thumbs up, and we'll see you next week. Peace out, everybody.
Good night, everyone.